For the record, podcast. Welcome back. Welcome. As you usually don't know, Tariq, and today we have a special guest, Miss Gabrielle Gill. How are you?
Hello.
How are you, Miss Gill? Now Jamaica colors.
Yes, Jamaica Day.
Alright, so before we join on, me and Tariq kind of start the discussion, and
Mhm.
um, he's against it. He's against abortion. I'm not necessarily for it, but I believe in you should have the choice, right? So yeah. So before we actually go to what we just said, what are your thoughts on it? Like as a female, because as man, we feel some of you have opinions on certain things. So
Sorry, what are my
What?
like
Nah, man.
overall on abortion?
yeah. What do you not what other people say you should
Yeah,
think? What
man.
you think, right?
Okay. So I do believe that women should have the choice to have abortions without being penalized,
Yeah.
right? Without being able to go to jail.
Mm.
I believe that doctors should be able to carry out the procedure in this country
Yeah.
that we love, Jamaica, without going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
In our existing law for the structure, section 72 and 73, raped if I think if there's incest, if there are unsound mind, they are allowed to have abortions. However, my main issue is that many of them still do not get abortions, like they're not able to. And we know how rape is in this country already and how hard it is for women to prove that they have been raped, etc.
True.
So if it is that the law facilitates that if a woman has been raped, that she can abort the child. If it is we don't have a structure in place that already deals with rape properly, then they can't get the
Mm.
justice that they want. Yes. So those are my brief thoughts on abortion so far.
So what do you mean so far? Like that sound like you're still not fully make your mind up
Other
fully.
things may come up as we go along.
Like what? What do you mean? Like since like your stance had it changed since recently?
I would say within the past year, at one point I was pro-life. I
Mm-hmm.
was pro-life. I used to say, okay, if it is that a woman has been raped or for some reason, financial, emotional, whatever it is, if she doesn't want to raise the child, I used to think that she should be able to carry it,
Mm-hmm.
deliver the baby, and then give up the baby to foster care. But in the past year, I've had experiences with children in foster care. I've known quite a bit of people who have been in the system, and I know that our system needs so much reform that a lot of people, me included, right now, it's like it doesn't even make sense if you're gonna send a child to foster care. As well as adoption in this country, it's very hard. Recently, the law was amended so that the process is a bit easier, but it's still very rough. So if that could be tweaked a bit, I'm still pro right now in a general sense,
Yeah.
pro-choice, but we still need to make homes better. We still need to make the adoption process better. I don't know if you watched the video once. Empress, she came on TV and she spoke about the state of the home. I think Maxfield, yeah, they owe so much money in terms of bills and rent and all these things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's quite challenging in that area. Because I remember when you used to go to church, you used to have like the foster kids come and stuff, and
Hmm.
as much you see, as much as you will see them and you feel sorry for them, there was never a moment where I think someone said, "Yeah, I'm gonna adopt this child," or anything along those lines. I don't think a lot of people will say it, but not a lot of people necessarily do it.
do it.
Do it, exactly, do it. They'll say, yes, you should go out and you should adopt a child, and they're not necessarily going to take up that responsibility and do it themselves. And ironically, they're the same people who are against abortions and all of that. As I said, my stance on it is I'm not sure if I would do it. As you said, things can change over time. However, I do believe that it should be made available for people who actually do need it, right? Um, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be one of those people and say it's not murder, because I strongly believe that it is murder. I do believe that it is murder. However, I still do believe that it should be done. Um, because I don't want to try to play no hypocrite
Do you think there's specific scenarios, or you wouldn't mind if women abort a child for any reason? You're
listen.
fine.
I don't mind. Listen, I don't care what reason you have. Well, no,
All
I
right.
don't care. But I don't think I should be able to stop you for any reason. If you don't have any good reason to do it, me I go probably for you. Me not say me I go stop you, or like me I go try to make it illegal. But me I go pre you a certain way if you just do it out of just doing it six. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I don't think people realize, but for instance, I remember in long ago, we had to learn about things about abortion.
Yeah.
So in certain countries, there should be counseling before, during, and after. So when people just say, "Oh, abortion," sugar in your belly, all of these things, it's like they don't realize that abortion takes such a toll on the body,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's even worse than pregnancy. So I don't think many women, it's not even recommended to just get up and do abortion. So they do have certain things in place. So more public education needs to be done around abortion, and how you may change afterwards, mentally, emotionally. Um, yeah.
I agree. Like I'm sure said this is the point where Tarek will come in and give his stance,
Mm-hmm.
because he's pretty much against it, right? So Tarek, tell Gabby why he pretty much tell me at the beginning.
When I nice in our background.
One fun,
Okay, so uh, what I'm saying is that I specifically would not tell anybody to do or to not to abort a child. But the thing is that I would say like first world countries, for example, America, England, and all them countries. Um, when these laws are implemented, we can obviously see that the infrastructures that are created to facilitate such laws are being abused, because I think I saw a statistic. I think for the first part of 2020, we're upwards of a couple 100,000 babies were being aborted in the first 2 months, right? So my primary thing is that, like, first of all, I'm against it, and like I wouldn't tell anybody to do it or not to do it, right? Because you have various instances where people things happen, right? And I'm not saying that people should consciously go and create babies, and or the next day they decide that, oh, a baby is not what I wanted. Damn,
Do you
let's
think
kill
many
it.
people are like that?
I think, like in all the cases of abortion that I know about, it was like a thing that, oh, like, sex is so nice, and yeah, we're having it, but I'm not ready for the repercussions of it. So
Okay.
yo, so let's kill the baby. And the thing is that people always bring up a talking point about what about the people that get raped and all these things. I know the amount of the true numeric amount of people getting um, sexually violated and raped in the island is not being adequately calculated and all these things. But if you really look at certain statistics and certain numbers, like the percentage of people that get pregnant from rape is like extremely low. But then people use this like small sample size to basically just justify abortion for the larger population.
Okay, I get your point. One thing I want to say is that you brought up developed countries earlier.
Yeah.
I do know, for bringing it closer to home, the Caribbean context now, for Barbados, it's been legal since the 80s. And a point that everybody keeps making, yeah, man, the 80s, Romario. So I think a lot of times when people think about abortion, they think that the moral fiber of the country just going to rip apart, everything going to bust at the seams, everything just going to turn upside down. That's not necessarily the case. And I'm glad that you brought up, you said for some people, they were just having sex, right? And they weren't ready to have a child. So remember in like last year when we spoke about contraceptives and marketing that. And for instance, just keep saying abstinence is the best way. It's not a practical thing to keep saying because there are people who still go and they have sex. So people just having abortion because they're not ready for a child, that may be a symptom of a deeper issue. So we don't have wider access in this country to contraceptives. So a lot of women will tell you if they go into a store, the pharmacists are very judgmental if they want to purchase certain contraceptives. We don't have a wide range of contraceptives. There's not proper education taught about contraceptives because there's still a strong mindset that everybody should be abstinent. And even though that's the best way to prevent pregnancy and to prevent STDs and STIs, not everyone is going to do that. So put the necessary things in place so that people don't have to go and get abortions.
Yes, and the point about the moral fiber of society is that people tend to equate like the legalization of abortions and all these things as like a sign that society the moral fiber of society is decaying. But I would say it is like a symptom. It's not really a sign. It doesn't mean that since people start about like everything is going to hell. It would sometimes be like an effect of the degrading moral fiber. Yeah.
Okay. Mario?
Yeah, where like I said, like I would use rather. So it wouldn't necessarily just drive the country into turmoil. I think it's quite crazy if you think like that. Anyway, like I don't
Yeah,
understand
people think like that though, man.
I don't understand how that would um drive like me not like that don't make sense to me. We can't like the only reason we can't see you being against it is for the purpose of morality. Maybe your morals say you you shouldn't, murder someone who doesn't really have the ability to make any decisions on their own. And from that perspective, I can understand, right? Because if you believe that life begins at conception, then it doesn't matter if it's a fetus, you would consider it life. And it's not life that can defend itself or make decisions for itself. So I can always understand when someone say, all right, I'm going to be the person who will stand up for the rights of that quote unquote person, even though they're not yet born into this world. That's really the only defense against it that I can understand. I can understand it for you not getting it, but at the end of the day, I still believe you should allow people the choice to do it, right? I still believe, and you know, I have to say that before we even go to that, there should be proper education and proper tools to allow people to not go to that last resort. Because, like, right now, I don't think the education that is being taught in schools is
It's not.
enough, right? Like, the one that really teach it. Are they really come to school now, I tell you? Or would they really preach in a church or in a community? Abstinence, abstinence, abstinence. And even though that is, probably the best foolproof method, it's not very realistic. And it's not realistic because human nature, people people are gonna have sex with each other. That's just human nature. You can't stop that. No matter which part of the world you go, that'll happen. You can't stop that. So if you just say abstain, 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 it's very unrealistic. It's more realistic to say, all right, we know say I'm gonna do this. Before you do this, at this you need to do. And while you do it, at this you need to do. And after you do it, at this you need to do. People don't really come to you and tell you these things, right? That's why I have so much people when they reach 20 or 30, at that time they might find out certain information because they never know, right? Nobody never did tell them this while they might grow up. So like even the importance of contraceptives and pulling out all these methods and stuff, it's not something that's really taught to people, especially at a young age. 'Cause if you're 15, 16, right, and you're coming about that age where you have to start, have sex with people, if you not get this information, if nobody not tell you this, you're not gonna know. And that's why in a lot of poorer communities, poorer families, people make these mistakes over and over again because if your mother not tell you, by the time you reach a certain age, you're gonna do it, and by the time your pitney grow up to that age, you would never tell for your pitney either. So it's just a cycle. It's just a cycle of things happening. So I really believe that we need to get proper education first. We need to educate people properly first about these issues. Because like, I mean, don't as I said, I I I don't know if I would do it personally, but I think people should have the choice. But I strongly believe it's a last resort type of thing. Like like yeah, mistake something, and in those cases, there would be few. I believe those cases would be few. In those cases, yeah, you go on and you do it if you're really and truly not ready to have a child. Like maybe you're too young, maybe you're not financially stable at the time. At that time, I do believe you should. Um, well, like, all right. Last time I spoke to you, you said um you were a Christian and stuff. So, like, is the view of your church the same as every other church? Like,
Here's
I'm
the thing. So, as I'm here today, I'm representing Gabriel Gale. I'm not representing any organization, any entity, or anything. I'm representing me, right?
okay.
There are different views in the Christian community. There are those because there was a meeting, a Love March movement meeting on Ash Wednesday. Um, yes, there was a meeting, right? But other than that space, you do have people who come together and they talk. There are those who believe that it's wrong across the board. There are those who
Yeah.
believe, okay, if push comes to shove, give the baby up for adoption, for foster care, or something. There are some people who agree with instances of rape and so
Yeah.
on. Yeah, so it's not just because people are Christians, there may be one dominant one view. People still have a range of views. Yeah, but I want to touch on something you said earlier. So about the education, right? Last year when I was researching for long ago for abortion, I saw the HFLE curriculum. I don't know how I end up there, but I end up there. Look at the HFLE curriculum.
What age
It's
should?
a really good, yeah,
What's
home
that?
and family life education. Like you're supposed to learn it in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a really good curriculum. The curriculum is fine. Schools don't really teach it, or they don't really take much from it. So I
Oh,
found that quite alarming because I'm like, there's good information in here. The powers that be who set up or created an infrastructure for people to follow, schools aren't really following it. And it will go back to like just different variants of denominations and so on. Because a lot of schools are like operated through churches or owned by churches and so on. So, or they're aligned to a particular denomination. So
mm,
certain things might not be taught in school. So that's fun. But I have a question for both of you, since you're both
yes, no,
guys.
good.
Um, in our country where you see that there are a lot of single mothers,
Mm-hmm.
in this country where we realize that a lot of men in general do not believe in using contraceptives, a lot of men don't believe in using condoms and so on. For women who are in partnerships like that,
Mm-hmm.
if they get pregnant and for many reasons they may not want to carry the child to term, what are your opinions on that?
So the one like wear contraceptives, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of men who they just want the woman for sex basically, and a lot of these men they don't want to wear condoms or anything, and some a lot of times these women get pregnant and they don't want to carry a child. So, what do you think?
So it's like they know the man pretty much know what they don't take care of the
Mm-hmm.
child. Oh. Um. Yeah. Um. Yeah. That question they can actually still man. I lie. Sorry, listen.
Me personally, if
Let's say you're a sister, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
I'm not on some wood, but still.
you tell say you're a sister that happened to
hmm,
what you gonna say?
no, but the thing is that if that was my sister, I would expect her to know that
This
every act.
now, this now.
It's a partnership. It takes two people.
Here's a
So what
partnership. All
else?
right.
No.
So I would expect her to know that all these actions have repercussions and every action have an equal but opposite reaction if you believe in that sort of stuff. And I would not say to do or not to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely would not give my blessing to do, if you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying. Right?
You see,
Because
you see, thing about that though, Tariq, like if I even say she not financially stable and
mm,
she don't really have the money, and she not educated and all that stuff, just two country bumpkin,
Many other stuff, yeah.
and then that will happen no and
mm.
so
Me
so
personally
if
believe that two country bumpkins not have sex.
I mean, as we say, easier said than done. She say abstain,
Mm-hmm.
abstain, abstain. Easier said,
But yeah, bring it back to reality.
easier said than
Well,
yeah.
as a young man, from what you guys would call the country, right? Trust
Mm-hmm.
me, it's not that hard. It's just that when I grew up in an environment that is hypersexual and everything, every conversation, every little innuendo is hypersexual, everybody that basically creates the environment in which um, people just have rampant sex because it's ingrained institutionally in them psyche, right? But coming to that question, no, I would have literally no opinion, because I would give her the choice, right?
Mm.
But if it was my child, right? Um, I want a Tarek Jr., so nah,
So you stay around and you support.
100%, because I wouldn't be in
But
such close proximity to anybody
yeah,
without considering the possibility of an offspring.
Okay, I'm glad you thought about that. Many don't. Or many men originally say that they do want it to happen, and when the time actually comes, they run off. And we can just look around in society and look at the dominant family type in the country.
But the thing is that a lot of people are in these flings, and like, I don't know if it registered in their mind that sex brings children. Yep, because the rate at which like people are enter these flings with no like financial stability, like no sense of reality. I would wonder if it is like something just just as simple as, oh, them have sex and it's an unplanned baby, or it's something deeper in the culture, or even the individual psyche.
I
But
don't
in
know,
regards,
in our country, we have quite a bit of visiting relationships. So you may have, so let's say a lady already has a child, right?
yeah,
This, let's say she has a son, and she keeps noticing that mommy keeps bringing around a certain uncle, right? At
damn,
some point, mommy gets pregnant. What happens?
damn.
Uncle eventually leaves. Mommy has baby. What else happens? Like sometime later, you see our next uncle come around. All of this. So it's a trend, and it abortion really touches many things because unfortunately many women don't have good quality jobs. I'm not going to say they're not educated. There are a lot of women who are educated, but still quite a little bit who need more education. But a lot of women don't have good quality jobs. And unfortunately, a man may be able to provide better. And some see a child as a way of ensuring that the man will help to provide.
Trust
yeah.
me, yeah.
Never
I don't
question.
know where that links to all of this, but it came up. Um,
Never question though, Gabby.
yeah, you can
Wait,
ask
before you
me.
say that, Telly,
Mm.
like something that literally just popped in my head, like when people analyze the whole issue of abortion and if it should be legal or should not be legal or whatever, it like when people are formulating their arguments, it really shines light on some of the practices of society and how
Mm-hmm.
certain infrastructures in society aren't adequate, like separate and apart from the whole abortion thing. But continue, Mr. Cohen.
All right. So my question is just as how you come ask a question and you want to come
Mm-hmm.
and shake up my head. Ask you a question now. So say a couple, right?
Say
They
what?
have a child. Will not have a child. A couple.
Okay. Yeah.
People, in a relationship. The woman get pregnant
Mm-hmm.
and she comes, she tell the man, she says, honey, I'm pregnant. The man is excited because, just like Turkey, one little junior, I don't know what the place do. He's
Mm-hmm.
excited on something and the girl look upon him with remorse and say, she's not keeping it
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't think she's ready for that child.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the man should have some sort of say in that scenario? Or should it solely depend on the woman?
Okay, so a lot of women say my body, my choice because they're going to be carrying the child, right?
Yeah.
I think, as you said, as we've all said before, like if once you're having sex, you need to consider that that's going to be a possibility,
Yeah.
whether you're having casual sex, whether you're in a committed relationship, whatever. You brought up the relationship scenario. Um, when people are going into a relationship, I believe that's something they should establish from the outset. Okay, if we're going to have sex, if I get pregnant, how would I feel? How would you feel? So it can't be that we're gonna wait until the actual event to be like, okay,
Facts.
I'm not ready, but you ready, and then people get hurt, people get confused, all of that. Like establish it before. I can't talk about people who are actually in the situation. I'm not in their shoes. They're going to have to hash out that however them hashed out. If she have the baby and him take care of it, if she give it to a auntie or uncle, somebody to take care of it, I don't know, but yeah.
That's true still. That's true. They would need to have that discussion before in a relationship. But me just ask that I just asked that because a lot of times you may hear say just it's just a woman's choice and stuff. But I'm thinking, well, say it actually does something in a relationship and the man actually does want to keep it. I've always wondered, like, where does what weight does his opinion carry in that situation? And if it's the other way around, where the woman wants to keep it, but he doesn't, like, what happens next? Because if you're a man and you say, all right, I'm not ready, for whatever reason, like, what happens next? If the child does come, do I need to still pay child support? Do I still need to be around and so on and
I
so forth?
believe so.
Is it?
There are quite a bit of women I know that once they've told their partners that they got pregnant,
Yeah.
man cut and leave. And now to those women, they still want their babies, so they go and they have their babies. I do believe if you help to create a child and the child comes here, you need to help pay. Like you should know that that could happen.
Yeah.
And again, if we had contraceptives now and people could access them well and pay for them, we wouldn't be having this discussion
Yeah.
as frequently.
Then is there ever a case when a man's word holds weight in this argument, in this debate?
I would say in this country, it does for a lot of women because a lot of men are the breadwinners. A lot of men, it's shifting a bit now, but a lot of men have a strong say so in the house. So realistically, I do believe even if a lady may not want to keep the child, she may be afraid of terminating it because of how her partner might react. And then you have unwanted children who are here, and that affects how they're raised.
Yes, no, it just kind of always weird to me where people always kind of preach it's always a woman's choice, and to me, I feel like sometimes a man's word supposed to hold some weight in the discussion. It just always seems a bit unfair. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the end of the day, I do think it's a woman's choice, but I honestly feel like at the end of in the discussion, a man should have some sort of say in it.
Do you have an idea to what extent? Because I do understand where you're coming from. It takes two people to create
yeah,
that child. So
yeah. As I said, like if it's two consenting adults, and one of them, or even they're not even probably in the case where it's a casual thing, and or maybe it wasn't a very long term relationship, and they break up, and a, a month after on the break up, the woman come tell us say, yo, say me I have one picnic and I think I'm gonna keep it. Like, what say do you have as a man in that scenario? Like If you're not ready, right? If you're not ready to have a child, it almost seems as if your opinion is no, or whatever you feel, it gets thrown to the side, right? Even if you probably are facing the same issues that any woman would be facing as to why she should be getting an abortion, it now seems as if all of that just goes to nothing, right? So I don't know. In a case like that, I've wondered like what is supposed to happen. Is it that you should be excluded from being in that child's life? Should it now be just something optional? Like if you say, boy, so I'm not paying a child support, should you now have that say? And I agree with what you said earlier. Like it creates a child, and both parties should look after that child. But there are some cases when a man just say, yo, me never did want
Um,
it to happen, and
I
it
have
happened.
a question. So when we say look after how? Because ideally, when you're going to raise a child, you want to raise a child in a loving home with both parents, right? There are some fathers. There are some fathers who they'll stay out of the child's life or not be around much, but they'll still provide some amount of financial support.
Yeah.
But when that child is here now, I don't even want to say like a void will be left. There are lots of women, especially in our country. If the man isn't ready, they'll still go ahead and they'll have the child and they'll raise the child with all the love in their heart and a community village vibe. But again, even though it takes two, you can understand why a lot of women will say that they have the final say because they're the ones carrying it.
No, me
There's
understand that.
Yeah, so much comes with pregnancy.
Me understand that. But you see, I always like questions like these when I say, boy, the topic here kind of tricky because just black and white for say yes or no. There are different parts to it where you ever say, boy, I'm not really sure. But I mean, if you say, yo, me kinda me not good financially right now, I'm in a good state of mind right now, I say me just don't really want to have a child right now as a man, and the woman say, yo, so me go keep you and me expect you to take care right. It just seems a bit unfair, if you get what I'm saying. It just seems a bit unfair.
So the man, if I know that before I'm gonna have sex.
But we could use that same argument with the woman.
Yeah, you can as well.
We could
It
that's
comes
why
down to
that's what I'm saying.
communication. It really comes down to both parties need to know what they want.
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's a bit unfair because the woman gets the option to just terminate the pregnancy, but the man doesn't necessarily get that option. Do you see what I'm saying?
So do you think he'd want to take the child and raise it?
Repeat
He'd
that
have
again.
to communicate that to his partner, if anything. Would he want to take the child and raise it?
That's no, but that's what I'm saying, right? Like if you what I'm not saying that I would do this, right? But me I say it kind of weird how we pre-man sometimes where they might be have the same reasons as a woman as to why she got an abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apart from dying from childbirth, but maybe you're not good, mentally you're not ready, financially you're not ready, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact reasons as a woman. The woman has the choice to terminate that pregnancy, but as a man, your your future depends upon what that woman decides. As a man, you are coming into you have a child coming into the world. You are now expected, even if it's to not be around 24/7, be that child's life. You're expected to pay child support and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So to me, it seems a bit unfair, right? Because if you are not ready, and the woman says, "Yo, I'm gonna business for that, you know, have that pregnant," right? Even if you say, "Yo, please have an abortion," and she says, "No, I want the child." To me, it just feels a bit unfair, you know?
I can get that. And again, I would say it still comes down to communication, both people knowing what they want from the from the beginning. There's some people for some reason maybe like change, their mind change, something happen. I'm not saying things can't happen along the way, but that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
That's what I'm saying. It's not black and white as how people make it out to be. It's not as black and white. And society kind of villainize men nowadays. 'Cause, men supposed to be big, round, and scary. So like certain things will bring up. I want to really pay attention to it. If I say yo, so and this and that, people then I say no, your opinion don't matter. And look, as I said, at the end of the day, I do believe it's a woman's choice.
Well, what I would say though is that I'm glad you brought up that scenario. I'm not sure how often it happens though. That I just really don't know how often it
It
happens.
happens very often.
It happens very often where the man still wants his child but the woman doesn't want a child.
No. I don't know. No,
Oh,
not that scenario. As in, the woman wants a child, but the man doesn't necessarily want the child.
oh yeah, that happens very often.
Yeah, that happens very often. And to me, I just think, I mean, I say the man, like, I don't know, because the way whole society kind of paint it ever since me set foot on this earth is that at the workplace study them left their pitney with the mother and not give nothing. You see what I say? And like if you really stop and think about it, like say, yo, suppose the man just never did ready to have a child at the time, and him did I go through the same things as any woman will get an abortion. Like where does his
So I have a question.
yeah.
So the way forward for that now. This is straying a bit off of abortion.
Yeah,
A child eventually comes into the world, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Whether the woman wants it or whether the man wants it, however it goes. Would you agree that once a child is here, both parents should play an active role?
Um, I think it's ideal that both parents have an active role. I think that is ideal. I think that is what should be aimed for,
You're a
right?
bit low. Mm-hmm.
What really? Um, yeah, I'm saying I think that is ideal. I think that's what should be aimed for, right? And I think it is quite unfair to the child if one party decides not to contribute. So whether it's the mother or the father, I think it's quite unfair to the child. However, playing devil's advocate, I can see and understand why some men might choose to neglect that child. Not to say um me some evil person, but like if you're 21, right, and 21, 19 as a man, right, and you hear say, yo, you make a mistake, right? As much
Mistake?
as I try to avoid them, right? You make a
Mistake?
mistake. You make a mistake.
What mistake, Telly?
You put your penis or something in some vagina without a condom. You make a mistake.
No, the thing is that, look at her. One, you have to meet the person, right?
Mm,
Two, in most situations, not all, you have to
mm,
reach a level in which this person is willing to basically partake in
sure.
sexual activities.
Mm,
Then insert penis into vagina. Like just to meet the person and then after get to that level in normal circumstances. Me not thought like because what you say nowadays society basically drift into a very leftist culture,
mm,
right? Quote unquote liberal. So it's not just merely a mistake. I would say it is irresponsible behavior. Yeah, because if you know, say, if you don't do this, this are gonna happen. Right? So I
Yeah,
want to say it's a mistake.
me agree with you, you know. Me agree with you.
To me,
I agree with you. Because at
to
the end of
me.
the day, like in a scenario like that,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
you know, you actually you know the repercussions of it, you know what can happen. But just to say like, yeah, yeah, some young man and you know, you go breed some girl or something and yeah, say yo, me already feed you ask the girl, um, terminate the pregnancy, she says no. She says she will have the child and you know say you know financially ready, you know mentally ready, like you're just not ready overall, right?
Hmm.
Like I'm not saying that I'm not saying that anybody should do this, but you can kind of understand why some of them will decide say, yo, we just now go do that the way they again, we just now have nothing to do with it. I think it's about practice, but at the same time, you can. I don't feel like society is set up anything for men in that regard.
Here's what how I would say. Honestly, it's on that person really. Any
Mm-hmm.
person when you're having sex, you know that it's a possibility. And I do believe if push comes to shove and don't want to say anyone push comes to shove and that child arrives, however, whether it's a fight or
Mm-hmm.
willingly a child arrives, both parties need to boss up and take care of the child.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
really it.
I agree.
Um, Another point I would make is that for some people too, um, there are some couples who partake in that Planned Parenthood and they're both not ready. Some couples they're both not ready for a child. They're like, we're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever reason that they're not ready, they terminate the child. And again, public education is important because abortion comes with so many things that people need to know about, as well as pregnancy. They're both really rough things to go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's just overall the topic. It's not black and white, and there are different
Mm-hmm.
parts to it we have to look on. Cause you know, if you ask me, yo, if you if you can't afford a child, you know, rape, incest, um, like at risk, do it. You know what I'm saying? Like that me believe. But you know, you have certain different parts to it where it kind of tricky where you say, boy, well, not necessarily the abortion aspect, but you know, like what happens after it, like the case of me and about and stuff. But yeah, I don't say I'm not gonna be no hypocrite and say, yo, abortion is not murder. I strongly believe it's murder. I strongly believe the life begins at incest, but it's murder I'm okay with. That's on a way, but me
Now,
go
like
say,
I said, people have different perspectives medically.
mm-hmm,
People may show you where it's just certain cells and where different features might develop for it to be life, and then for some other people, as long as someone is pregnant,
mm-hmm,
they believe it's abortion, right? But that's why I would say for certain emergencies, I'm not in a position to say if it's right or wrong or whatever.
yeah,
In certain emergencies, couples or a woman for some reason she goes out and she gets plan B.
mm-hmm,
Plan B is not something for people to fool around with, but if someone knows that okay, I am not completely ready with for this, I'm
mm-hmm.
going to take it. So what would your view be about someone taking plan B opposed to like getting an abortion like really early on?
You know, so I don't really know what plan B though. I just know say then take it after. I'm not necessarily sure what it does
That
though.
morning after pill is like
Yeah,
okay,
I know what it is, but I don't know like what it does like in the
it
body.
kind of just like stops anything like from really happening. For most women it works, but they're not supposed to like in a year. Let me not give statistics because I don't want to be wrong and advise anybody about anything wrong. This is important stuff.
Yeah.
um you don't fool women don't fool around with it because it can affect their bodies adversely. Like after it, some women don't see their periods. After it, some women drastic things happen. So before it even reaches the stage of abortion, call it like I wouldn't even say a lesser abortion, but like if you think if some women think they're pregnant and it's really early, you take it like obviously like the morning after and so on. They're like, okay, just go and take it and make sure that you are okay, so you don't have to deal with all of this later on.
Okay.
There's some people who don't believe in contraceptives at all. Some people think any form of contraceptive is somewhat like an abortion because they're like, if you are naturally going to block the process of creating a child, that is wrong.
Yeah. That's some very old philosophical thing. So I think I don't remember who exactly, but if I'm correct, I think it was people like Saint Augustine who said, um, if you spill semen and him stuff, then that's a sin. You know, so it's a very religious take to say contraceptives. If you're not have sex naturally, then yeah, I think that's really the take that the church believes. Like they believe that not only that it's murder of like the body, but wasting semen like that and all those stuff. Like
For that story, like if you're going to look biblically, there's an entire reason around that. It wasn't just the act of spilling semen.
yeah,
Um, Not to get too religious, but basically, a man was supposed to man up, and back in the days, if a man died, the brother
Judah.
like marry him wife, the existing wife, and so on.
mm,
So he's supposed to help get her pregnant and carry on the line. That
But he
particular man did
didn't.
not want to carry on the line. He's like, I just want to have sex. I don't want to carry on the line. So
oh,
feel the semen now, and it's like, wow, you're not doing your duty. That is why it's wrong. It's
Yes.
wrong in that instance. It's not right across the board. And there's some people who take it and run with it and say, oh, if you spill it, it is wrong.
man,
So
man, like,
again,
if you was to practice that though, like if you was a pastor and your brother did live his wife and he never not paid him, wonder if you was a pastor feel like
Some
I as a
countries
Christian
still practice
feel
it
like,
though.
but you never really
some
hear
countries still practice that.
Yeah.
you never really hear with it. That kind of
Wow,
I guess
different views.
I guess in that sense still. Well, me not really like how church have a bishop voice in it. Though. 'Cause I feel like I really I prevent it from moving forward and stuff. They never really come with any good
I
thing.
would agree in terms of the loud voices I hear against abortion
Mm-hmm.
is from the Christian community. However, like my problem again before is like, you see how we're saying it's not a black and white issue. It's like many people just think it is wrong straight across the board. Like we don't care what the different things are that happen. Do not have it.
Mm-hmm.
Do not have it. And I think that's very insensitive if you don't sit with people. There are people who try, I'm going to say there are entities in this country that do try and help women, albeit limited, but you have women's shelter and all these things if they want to keep their child and so on. But I would say, as we said before, it's another person's choice. You can't limit them. And if it is that you want them so badly to keep the child, put things in place. Create other women's shelters. Create daycares. Create different things to help keep the children safe once they come in. So at least the mother and the father, the parents could know, okay, if we bring this child here, this child is going to be okay. We're not in this alone. We're going to have some support.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Um, when you said it just 30 minutes ago, but I don't feel like we want to open up all over and over. So I think I'm just gonna end it here. If any of you guys have anything you want to say, final thoughts or anything, is there anything?
Okay. My final thoughts are, I would implore people to be very sensitive. A lot of times we just speak and we don't like to hear each other's point of views. So as we discussed earlier, you heard the different perspectives around abortion. So whether someone agrees, disagrees, or they're somewhere in the middle, please just have a civilized discussion. Yes, it can get heated, but please just try and see where the other person is coming from. And
Yeah,
at the end of the day, whatever choice you have, when you have a partner, communicate that clearly before you engage in sexual activities, before a child can reach this planet.
Yeah. Mr. Rose, I want to say.
um, Basically, my final thought is I realize people tend to look to more, what I would say, economically powerful and more developed countries, as some sort of like barometer to
Mm-hmm.
see if certain laws that would be passed in their own countries and how it would basically affect the society and all these things and all. But my main point is that I see Jamaica going down a road
Mm-hmm.
like it's on a fast track to be in Little America,
Yeah.
and we all know how that end up right now in America with the various ideologies and um, basically utter confusion, and people should just know their responsibilities and know their rights, and if um, they should be cognizant of their actions and the repercussions. Yeah, that's all.
Oh, Romario, I'm sorry. I have like one last point, like it's really quick. Again, when I started, I spoke about the legal aspect of abortion, right? A
Yeah.
lot of people they just want it to not be criminalized because whether it's legal or not, people having it. A lot of maternal death they occur because of botched abortion. So they're saying, please just make it legal so we can prevent the death that may occur.
Yeah. That's true though. That's a good argument. Just because it's not legal doesn't mean people aren't doing or attempting it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. Yeah, my final thoughts, I think it should be available, um, to the people who need it. Um, I don't really know if I can say or debate and tell you who exactly qualifies as needing an abortion. I'm not sure if I can say that right now, but I do strongly believe that you should need an abortion, right? Whether it's for whatever reason. Um, and personally, as I said, I think you should just get one for getting one sakes. But whatever. If that's what you want, then cool. I think that's pretty much how I feel about it. Yeah, I don't have nothing else to say. That's it, man. Mr. Rose, Miss Gabrielle Gill, thank you so much. As per usual, you know. Always a lovely time speaking to you, Miss Gill.
Thank you.
What else I didn't want to say? Nothing else. Nothing else really there. So, for the record, episode 15, that was it, abortion.
Yeah, man.
Alright.
All right. Bye, guys.
Uh,